My name is Crystal Cole, 32 years old. At my parents' Thanksgiving dinner, in front of 30 relatives, my father stood up with his wine glass and made a toast I'll never forget. In this family, we have two children. One carried the family name forward with pride. The other carried only resentment and failure. He stared directly at me. Frankly, Helen and I are ashamed that you still use the Cole name. My mother nodded, her face cold and certain. I sat there, frozen, holding my wine glass while aunts and uncles avoided my eyes. My brother smiled into his napkin. They thought they knew the whole story. They thought I was the disappointment, the one who walked away from the family business, the ungrateful daughter who pursued pointless charity work instead of real success. They didn't know what I'd been doing for the past 8 years. They didn't know what Grandma knew. And what happened when she stood up from her seat, what she revealed in front of everyone, changed not just that Thanksgiving, but the entire architecture of our family forever. Let me take you back. To understand that night, you need to understand the Cole family first. But more than that, you need to understand how it felt to grow up invisible. My father, George Cole, 62, runs First Liberty Bank in Philadelphia. My mother, Helen, 60, works as chief accountant at the same bank. They live in Chestnut Hill, matching Lexus sedans, country club memberships, season symphony tickets, the whole upper middle class package. And they care obsessively about image. My father's favorite line? In this family, we don't just work hard, we show the world we're worth respecting. That sentence defined my entire childhood. I remember my 12th birthday. It was a Tuesday in March. I came home from school excited because my best friend Emily had invited me to sleep over that weekend. When I walked into the kitchen, my mother was on the phone planning something big. I thought maybe, just maybe, she was planning a surprise party for me. She wasn't. She was planning Jonathan's 16th birthday party. He was turning 16 in 2 months. She'd already booked a venue, hired a DJ, ordered a custom cake that cost $300. When she hung up, I asked, "Mom, can we do something for my birthday this year? Maybe just dinner?" She looked at me like I'd asked for a car. "Crystal, your birthday is on a Tuesday. We'll do cake at home. Jonathan's birthday is special. He's turning 16. That weekend, I bought myself a cupcake from the grocery store with my babysitting money. I stuck a candle in it, sat in my bedroom, sang happy birthday to myself and blew it out. Nobody noticed. That's what it was like. Jonathan's achievements were family events. Mine were background noise. When Jonathan graduated high school with a 4.0, my parents threw a party for 60 people, rented tables, had it catered. My father gave a speech about how proud he was. When I graduated high school with a 3.8, we went to Olive Garden. Just the four of us. My father spent the whole dinner talking about Jonathan's acceptance to Penn. The favoritism wasn't subtle. It was the entire structure of our family. My brother Jonathan made that dynamic easy to maintain. He's 39 now, 3 years older than me. He's a cardiologist at Penn Presbyterian Medical Center. Not just any cardiologist, director of cardiology. Youngest ever at 39, makes $385,000 a year. Lives in Gladwine with his pharmacist wife Melissa and 3 perfect kids, Sophie, Nathan, and Emma. 4-bedroom house, pool, private school, Audi Q7. My parents never stopped talking about him. Jonathan just won the Cardiology Excellence Award. Jonathan was on the radio talking about heart disease. Jonathan's taking the family to Disney World. When Jonathan got married, my parents paid $50,000 for the wedding. $50,000. Open bar, string quartet, flowers flown in from Holland. When I told them I wasn't interested in getting married anytime soon, my mother said, "Well, at least we won't have to waste money on that." Then there's me. I'm a special education teacher at a public school in West Philadelphia. I teach 14 kids with learning disabilities. Some days I help a 13-year-old learn to write his own name. Some days I celebrate when a kid who hasn't spoken in 2 years finally says hello. It's hard work, important work. I make 52,000 a year. I'm 32, single, no kids. I share an apartment with two other teachers in South Philly. We split rent, 850 each. I don't own a car. I carpool in my roommate's 2009 Honda Civic. To my parents, my life is complete failure. They wanted me at the bank. They wanted me married to someone from a good family. They wanted suburban grandchildren and dinner parties. Instead, I teach kids who can barely read for poverty wages. My mother once said on the phone, she didn't know I was listening. Crystal has a kind heart, but she never learned how to build a real future. She's still figuring things out at 32. It's embarrassing. My father introduced me at a bank event as my daughter who teaches. Not my daughter the teacher, just my daughter who teaches, with this apologetic smile, like admitting I had a chronic illness. At family dinners, the conversation always turned to Jonathan within 5 minutes. His cases, his patients, his kids' achievements. When I tried to share a story about one of my students finally learning to read, my father would nod politely and then immediately pivot. Speaking of achievements, Jonathan, tell everyone about that award you got. I learned to stay quiet, to take up less space, to not expect anything. But one person saw me differently. My grandmother, Dorothy Brennan. We call her Dot. Grandma Dot is 81. She's been a widow for 23 years. She lives alone in Fishtown in a brick row house she's owned for 53 years. Small, quiet, simple cardigans and slacks. At family dinners, she sits at the head of the table and watches. People forget she's even there. But Grandma Dot isn't poor, and she isn't powerless. She owns 3 rental properties in Center City, worth over 2 million combined. She collects nearly 7,000 a month in rent, completely financially independent. And here's what nobody knows. Grandma keeps records. She writes everything down, every conversation, every promise, every lie. She told me once, when we were sitting in her kitchen on a Saturday morning, people show you who they are when they think no one's keeping track. I always keep track. For 10 years, every Saturday, I've driven 40 minutes to see her. I bring groceries, fix things around her house, change light bulbs, shovel snow in winter, mow grass in summer. We drink tea in her kitchen. We talk. I tell her about my students. She tells me stories about when she was young. My parents visit maybe once a month. Jonathan came 4 times last year. But to hear them talk? We're so worried about Mom. We check on her all the time. All performance, all image, and Grandma saw through every word. Quick question for you. Have you ever had a sibling who was the clear favorite? Where no matter what you did, it was never enough? Drop a comment. You're not alone in this. Now let me tell you about the weeks before Thanksgiving, because that's when everything started building to that moment. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, my mother called. Monday night, 7:18 p.m. I was grading papers at my kitchen table. My roommate Sarah was making dinner. The apartment smelled like garlic and tomatoes. Crystal, Thanksgiving is at 4 p.m. sharp. Try to be on time. Okay, Mom. And wear something presentable, not one of those shapeless teacher outfits you usually wear. I looked down at my sweater and jeans. Okay. Jonathan's sharing exciting news. Try not to overshadow it. I almost laughed. Overshadow it? With what? My thrilling tales of teaching 7th graders to read? I won't, Mom. She hung up. No goodbye. I found out later she called Jonathan right after. I know because my father accidentally put his phone on speaker when he called me back 10 minutes later to ask if I was bringing anything. I could hear my mother in the background, still on with Jonathan. Her voice was warm, animated. She was laughing. So, Sophie's playing Annie? Oh, that's wonderful. You must be so proud. And Nathan made the soccer team? At 6 years old? He's going to be a star, just like his father. 24 minutes. She talked to Jonathan for 24 minutes. She'd talked to me for 3 minutes, 12 seconds. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, my mother called again. This time on a Wednesday evening. Crystal, I wanted to remind you that this Thanksgiving is very important. Jonathan's announcement is going to be significant for the family. Okay, Mom. We need you to be supportive. We need you to be happy for him. There was something in her voice, not quite a warning, but close. I will be, Mom. You know, Crystal, sometimes I wonder if you resent your brother's success. My hand tightened on the phone. I don't resent Jonathan. Because it would be understandable. You've made different choices, choices that haven't led to the same level of success. But that's not Jonathan's fault. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her if she remembered 2013, if she remembered asking me to drop out of college, if she remembered the $78,000 I'd sent home over 8 years. But I didn't. I don't resent Jonathan, Mom. I'm proud of him. Good. Because family is everything, Crystal. And we need to present a united front. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there in my kitchen, phone still in my hand, and I thought about 2013. I let myself remember it, really remember it. I was 24. Halfway through my junior year at Temple University, studying social work. I'd wanted to be a social worker since I was 16. I wanted to help kids who came from broken homes, who didn't have anyone advocating for them. It was September. The fall semester had just started. I was excited. I'd gotten into an advanced practicum. I was finally doing real work in the field. Then my father called. Crystal, your mother and I need to talk to you. Can you come home this weekend? I went home that Saturday. They sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where, years earlier, nobody had noticed my 12th birthday. Jonathan got into Penn Medical School, my father said. It's an incredible opportunity, the best medical school in the region. That's amazing. I was genuinely happy for him. The tuition is very expensive, my mother said. We've taken out loans, but we're stretched thin. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. We need your help, my father said. Just temporarily, just until we get back on our feet. What kind of help? We need you to take a break from school, just for a semester or two. Get a job, help us with some of the expenses. I stared at them. You want me to drop out? Not drop out, my mother said quickly. Just pause. You can go back later. Jonathan's education is an investment in the entire family, my father said. When he becomes a doctor, we'll all benefit. This is how families work, Crystal. We support each other. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell them it wasn't fair, that I had dreams too, that my education mattered too. But I was 24, and I'd spent my entire life learning that my needs came second. Okay, I said. My mother looked relieved. My father nodded approvingly. We'll pay you back, he promised. 6 months, a year at most. We just need to get through Jonathan's first year. I dropped out the next week. I got a job as a teacher's aide at an elementary school, $28,000 a year. I moved into a tiny studio apartment, started sending money home. 6 months came and went. No one mentioned paying me back. I kept sending money, every month, 600, 700, sometimes 800 when I picked up extra tutoring gigs on weekends. I never asked them about it. I was too ashamed. Ashamed that I'd been stupid enough to believe them. Ashamed that I couldn't say no. And sitting in my kitchen 12 years later, listening to my mother tell me not to overshadow Jonathan's success, I felt that same shame all over again. Then there was the family group chat. 30 people. All through November it was full of Jonathan updates. Jonathan was featured on the hospital website for his innovative work in preventive cardiology. Sophie got the lead role in her school play. Such a little star. Can't wait to hear Jonathan's big announcement at Thanksgiving, I posted once. I wrote, one of my students with autism spoke his first full sentence today after 2 years of work. His name is Marcus, and he said, I want to go home. His mom cried. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. 3 heart emojis. No comments. Grandma Dot was one of the 3. She sent me a private message 10 minutes later. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Never forget that. The Saturday before Thanksgiving, I picked up Grandma for our weekly grocery run. It was cold. The first real cold day of the season. The kind of cold that makes your fingers ache even inside gloves. We went to the Acme on Aramingo Avenue like we always did. Grandma pushed the cart slowly. She was moving more carefully lately, more deliberately, like every step required thought. She picked out oranges, bread, her favorite English breakfast tea, a small container of butter cookies. Loading the bags into my car, she asked, "You're coming Thursday, right?" "Yes, Grandma." She looked at me, really looked. Her eyes were sharp despite her age, clear, knowing. "Good. I want you there. Don't leave early, no matter what happens." "Okay. Promise me, Crystal, no matter what your father says, no matter what your mother does, no matter how badly you want to run, you stay until I say you can go." There was something in her voice, something I couldn't quite identify. Not anger, not sadness, something harder, more resolved. "I promise, Grandma." Good girl. On the drive back to her house, she was quiet, unusually quiet. Then out of nowhere, "Stop at the bank?" "The bank?" "Citizens Bank, on Frankfurt." I pulled into the parking lot. "Do you need me to come in?" "No, wait here." She was inside for 15 minutes. I sat in the car, heat running, watching people come and go. When she came out, she was carrying a large brown envelope, 9 by 12 inches, stuffed so thick it barely closed. She got in the car, set the envelope carefully in her lap, didn't explain. "Grandma, what's in the envelope?" She smiled, just a little, just the corners of her mouth. "Insurance." "Insurance for what?" She looked out the window, watched the bare trees pass by. For the truth, I didn't understand. But something about the way she said it made the hair on my arms stand up. "Grandma, you'll see Thursday. Just remember your promise. Stay until I say you can go." I didn't ask again, but that envelope sat in my mind for the next 5 days. I couldn't stop thinking about the way she'd smiled, about the word insurance. I didn't know it then, but that envelope contained 12 years of evidence. 12 years of my grandmother quietly, methodically, documenting every lie my parents had told. Wednesday night before Thanksgiving, my father left a voicemail. 9:42 p.m. I was already in bed, exhausted from a long day of teaching and parent-teacher conferences. I listened to it the next morning while I was getting dressed. "Crystal, it's Dad. Jonathan's sharing big news tomorrow. He's being offered Director of Cardiology at Penn Presbyterian, youngest in hospital history. Your mother and I are incredibly proud. I hope you can just try to be happy for your brother tomorrow. He's worked very hard for this. See you at 4. 41 seconds. That was it. I stood in my tiny bedroom, phone in my hand, and I thought, he has no idea. No idea that Jonathan's success was built on my sacrifice. No idea that the money they used to pay his tuition came from me. No idea that I've been carrying this family for 12 years while they've been calling me a failure. Let me ask you something. If you were in my position, would you have confronted them? Or would you have stayed silent, hoping someone else would finally see the truth? Let me know in the comments. Thanksgiving Day arrived cold and gray. November 28th, 2025, 34 degrees, light snow falling like ash. I got to my parents' house at 3:55, 5 minutes early. I didn't want to give them any excuse to criticize me. The house was already packed. Cars lined the street. I could hear voices and laughter from inside as I walked up the driveway, my cheap dress shoes crunching on the thin layer of snow. I was wearing a navy blue dress I'd bought on sale at Target. Low heels, I'd put on makeup, pulled my hair back. I looked presentable. My mother answered the door. She looked me up and down, her eyes scanning for flaws. "Oh, you're here." No hug, no smile. She stepped aside to let me in. Coat closet is full. Put it on the bed upstairs. The house smelled like turkey and stuffing and my mother's signature cranberry sauce. The living room was full of people I saw once, maybe twice a year. Aunts, uncles, cousins, second cousins. The dining room table had been extended with 2 extra leaves. It was set with my mother's good china, white with gold trim. The tablecloth was burnt sienna. 2 bottles of red wine were already open. Cameron Hughes Lot 450 Cabernet, $34 a bottle. I knew because I'd seen it at the store. And there, at the head of the table, was Grandma Dot. She was wearing a navy cardigan over a white blouse. Her white hair was neatly combed. She had a small canvas bag sitting on the floor next to her chair. Navy blue, sturdy. She saw me come in and gave me the tiniest nod, almost imperceptible. Then I saw the seating chart. My mother had set out little place cards at each seat, cream-colored, gold calligraphy. Jonathan, Melissa, and the 3 kids were seated on the right side of the table, close to the center, directly under the crystal chandelier. The good seats. The seats where everyone could see them, where the light was warmest. My seat was at the far left end, second to last chair, between my 70-year-old Aunt Linda, who's hard of hearing and wears a hearing aid she frequently forgets to turn on, and my 17-year-old cousin Jake, who already had both AirPods in and was scrolling through TikTok. As far from the center as physically possible. I sat down without saying anything. Aunt Linda was already deep in conversation with Uncle Robert across the table about their cruise to Alaska. She didn't notice me sit down. Jake didn't look up from his phone. People milled around, talking, laughing. Everyone was congratulating Jonathan, asking about his new position, complimenting Melissa's dress, emerald green, Reformation brand. I noticed the tag when she took off her coat, $340. I'd looked it up once because I'd liked a similar dress in their store. I couldn't afford it. My Uncle Robert, my father's brother, clapped Jonathan on the shoulder. Director of Cardiology at 39. That's incredible, John. You're really making us all proud. My Aunt Diane, my mother's sister, hugged Melissa. And those kids are just perfect. You two are doing everything right. My cousin Sarah, who's 28 and works in marketing, came up to me. Hey, Crystal. How's, everything? Good. Teaching's good. Oh, that's nice. Her eyes were already looking past me, toward the wine on the buffet table. That's really nice. Excuse me, I need to grab a drink. Nobody asked about my students. Nobody asked what grade I taught. Nobody asked about my life. I stood by the buffet table, holding a glass of lemon water, and I watched. I watched my parents beam at Jonathan, watched them fuss over the grandchildren, watched Melissa glow in her expensive dress, watched the kids run around, adorable in their matching outfits. And I watched Grandma Dot. She didn't talk to anyone. She just sat in her chair at the head of the table, one hand resting on that canvas bag, watching everything. Her face was calm, almost serene, but her eyes were sharp, tracking, recording. At 4:47 p.m., my mother called everyone to sit down. There was a scramble as 30 people found their assigned seats. Chairs scraped, kids were shushed. Someone knocked over a water glass and quickly mopped it up with a napkin. I sat down in my chair at the end. Jake to my right finally took out one AirPod. Aunt Linda to my left was still talking to Uncle Robert, her voice too loud because she couldn't hear herself properly. My father stood up at his place, 2 seats to Grandma's right. He cleared his throat. The room quieted down immediately. Forks stopped moving. Kids stopped fidgeting. Before we eat, I'd like to say a blessing. Everyone quieted down. Even the kids went still. My father bowed his head. His voice took on that formal tone he used for prayers and speeches. Lord, we thank you for this meal, for our health, and for the blessings you've given this family. We're especially grateful for our children who've made us proud, who've worked hard and achieved great things. Bless this food and this gathering. Amen. I noticed something. When he said, "Our children who've made us proud," his eyes were closed. But when he finished the prayer and opened them, he looked directly at Jonathan. His eyes didn't even flicker in my direction. Not once. We started eating. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce, green beans. People passed dishes around. Conversation started up in pockets. The room filled with the sound of silverware on china, laughter, small talk. I ate quietly, cut my turkey into small bites, passed the gravy when someone asked, smiled when I was supposed to smile, made myself as small as possible. Jake beside me had put the AirPod back in. Aunt Linda was still talking to Uncle Robert about excursions and whale watching. No one spoke to me. And then, at 5:12 p.m. exactly, I know because I checked my phone under the table, my father stood up again. This time he was holding his wineglass. The room went quiet immediately. Everyone knew what this meant. This was the moment we'd all been waiting for. Jonathan's big announcement. "I'd like to make a toast." Jonathan looked up, smiling modestly. Melissa put her hand on his arm. My mother sat up straighter, hands clasped together on the table like she was about to pray. My father lifted his glass. The chandelier caught the dark red wine, made it glow. "I want to take a moment to recognize someone very special. My son, Jonathan." Applause started immediately, warm, genuine. Jonathan stood up, humble, nodding his appreciation. My father continued, his voice swelling with pride. "Jonathan graduated summa cum laude from Penn Medical School. He completed his cardiology residency at one of the best programs in the country. Last year, he received the Philadelphia Medical Society's Cardiology Excellence Award. And now, at just 39 years old, he's been named Director of Cardiology at Penn Presbyterian Medical Center, the youngest person to ever hold that position in the hospital's 130-year history." More applause, louder this time. Sophie, Jonathan's 9-year-old daughter, clapped enthusiastically, her small hands making sharp sounds. Nathan, the 6-year-old, picked up his fork and banged it against the table like a drum beat until Melissa gently took it from him. My father's voice was thick with emotion now. "Jonathan, your mother and I couldn't be prouder. You've carried this family's name forward with honor and distinction. You've made us all proud." Jonathan raised his own glass. His voice was warm, grateful. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. I'm grateful for all the support you and Mom have given me over the years. I wouldn't be here without you." People clinked glasses. There was warm laughter. Melissa kissed Jonathan on the cheek. Sophie beamed at her father. I raised my glass slightly, just enough to be polite, but I didn't drink. I couldn't. My throat was too tight. My father wasn't done. He set his glass down on the table but stayed standing. His smile faded just a little. His expression became more serious, more somber. "You know," he said slowly, deliberately, "raising 2 children teaches you something important." The room stayed quiet. People were listening, attentive. Not all children grow the same way. Some rise to the occasion. Some work hard. Some make their families proud. He paused. Let the words hang in the air. And some don't. I felt my stomach tighten, felt my hands go cold. "In this family, we have 2 children," my father continued. His voice was louder now, clear, deliberate. "One carried the family name forward with pride. The other carried only resentment and failure." 30 people went completely still. You could have heard a pin drop. I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway ticking. I could hear someone's fork scrape against a plate and then stop abruptly. My father turned his head, looked directly at me. "Frankly, Helen and I are ashamed that you still use the Cole name." The silence was absolute. My face burned. My heart pounded in my chest so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I couldn't breathe. My hand gripped the wineglass so tightly I thought it might shatter. My mother, sitting next to my father, nodded. Her face was hard, cold, certain, no hesitation, no doubt. Aunt Linda's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide, shocked. Uncle Robert looked down at his plate like he wanted to disappear into it. My cousin Emma whispered to her husband, loud enough for people nearby to hear, "Oh my God, did he really just say that?" Sophie, Jonathan's 9-year-old daughter, looked confused. She tugged on Melissa's sleeve. "Mommy, why is Grandpa being so mean to Aunt Crystal? What did she do?" Melissa shushed her quickly, put a finger to her lips. Her face was pale. And Jonathan? He looked uncomfortable, squirmed in his seat, glanced at me quickly, then looked away just as fast. Wouldn't meet my eyes. He just stared down at his napkin, folded it and unfolded it, folded it again. 30 people, 30 witnesses, and not one of them stood up for me. I could have cried, I could have screamed, I could have stood up, thrown my wine in his face, and stormed out. But I didn't do any of those things. Instead, I lifted my wine glass to my lips and took a slow, deliberate sip. I looked my father directly in the eye while I did it. Didn't smile, didn't frown, didn't show him anything. Then I set the glass down gently on the table. The base made a soft clink against the china. I didn't say a word, because I remembered what Grandma had told me. Don't leave early, no matter what happens. I turned my head slightly, looked at Grandma Dot. She was watching my father. Her face was calm, almost expressionless, but her hand had moved from resting on the table to gripping that canvas bag. And then, slowly, deliberately, she stood up. It wasn't dramatic. She didn't slam her hands on the table. She didn't raise her voice. She just slowly pushed her chair back and stood. She's 81 years old, 5'3", maybe 112 pounds, small and quiet and easily overlooked. But when Grandma Dot stood up, every single person at that table went silent. Every fork was set down. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence. Even the kids went still. Even Jake took out both AirPods. My father, still standing with his wine glass in his hand, looked at her. His confident smile faltered, flickered. "Mom," he said, his voice uncertain now. "I was just... George." Grandma's voice was quiet but clear, sharp as a knife. "Sit down." "I was just making a point about, sit down." My father sat. His face flushed red. He set his wine glass down hard on the table. Some wine sloshed out, staining the burnt sienna tablecloth dark. He didn't notice. My mother's eyes went wide. She looked at Grandma, then at my father, then down at her hands, which were trembling slightly. Grandma reached down, picked up the canvas bag, set it on the table in front of her with a soft thump. Everyone watched. No one moved. She opened it slowly, methodically, like she had all the time in the world. From inside, she pulled out something wrapped in dark blue velvet cloth. She unwrapped it carefully. A small metal box, navy blue, about 8 inches by 6 inches by 3 inches. The paint was worn at the corners, showing silver metal underneath. There was a brass latch, old and tarnished. She opened the box. Inside were 3 things, nested carefully: a thick brown envelope, a stack of letters tied with a faded blue ribbon, and a small leather notebook with a worn cover. She set the box on the table, right in front of my parents. My father looked at it. His face went from red to pale. The color just drained right out of it. My mother stared at the box like it was a live grenade. Jonathan leaned forward, confused. "Grandma, what is that?" Grandma ignored him. She was looking at my father. Only at my father. "George," she said, "do you remember what you told me in 2013? My father didn't answer. His jaw tightened. "You said Jonathan needed help paying for medical school. You said it was a family investment. You said you and Helen would handle it." My father's jaw tightened more. "Mom, I don't think this is the time. You did handle it, didn't you?" Grandma opened the small leather notebook. She flipped to a page marked with a faded ribbon. By taking money from Crystal. The room exploded into whispers. What? What is she talking about? Taking money? Jonathan stood up, his chair scraping loud against the floor. Wait, what money? Grandma looked at him. Her expression softened slightly. Just slightly. Sit down, Jonathan. You need to hear this. Jonathan sat slowly. Then sat. Melissa's hand was over her mouth. Her eyes were wide. Grandma turned a page in the notebook. September 18th, 2013. Crystal came to my house. She was 24 years old, a junior at Temple University. She asked me for $8,000. She looked at Jonathan. She said your parents needed it for a family emergency, medical school tuition, for you. She said they promised to pay her back in 6 months. Jonathan's face went white. All the color drained from it. What? They told her it was temporary. They told her it was helping the family. Grandma's voice was steady, cold as ice. I gave her the money. I told her she didn't have to pay me back. But I asked her one question. Why aren't your parents taking out a loan? She paused. Let the silence build. She said, they told me they already maxed out their loans. My father stood up abruptly. This is a private family matter. You made it public, Grandma said, still not looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the notebook. When you humiliated her in front of 30 people. Sit down, George. He sat. His hands were shaking. Uncle Robert whispered, loud enough for half the table to hear, Jesus Christ. Grandma pulled one of the letters from the stack, untied the ribbon carefully, unfolded yellowed paper that crinkled softly. This is a letter Crystal wrote to me in April 2014. She began reading, her voice clear and steady. Dear Grandma, I'm taking a break from school. Mom and Dad need help with bills right now. Jonathan's tuition is really expensive and they're stretched thin. I got a job as a teacher's aide at an elementary school. It's okay. I can always go back to school later. Love, Crystal. She looked up from the letter. She never went back. She dropped out halfway through her junior year so your parents could pay for Jonathan's medical school. I felt tears burning in my eyes. I tried to blink them back, but one escaped, ran hot down my cheek. Jonathan was staring at me. His face was stricken. Crystal, he whispered, you dropped out because of me? I couldn't answer, couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. Grandma turned more pages in the notebook. From May 2014 to August 2022, Crystal sent money home every single month. I tracked it, every payment, every amount. She ran her finger down the page. May 2014, $650. June 2014, $700. July 2014, $650. She kept reading, month after month, year after year, her voice never wavering. December 2018, $800. January 2019, $750. March 2020, $800. She paused, looked up. December 2021, $800. January 2022, $750. Uncle Robert whispered again, Jesus Christ. Louder this time. Aunt Diane had tears running down her face. Cousin Sarah looked like she might be sick. Grandma looked at my father. 8 years, George. $78,400. Money she made as a teacher's aide, making $28,000 a year. Then as a substitute teacher, making $32,000. Then finally as a special education teacher, making barely $50,000 a year. She let that sink in. Let everyone do the math in their heads. Let them realize what that meant. What percentage of my tiny salary I'd been sending home for 8 years. You told her it was helping the family, Grandma continued. You never told her it was paying off Jonathan's loans. You never told Jonathan that his sister paid for his medical school. Jonathan put his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. Oh my God. Oh my God. And that's when I remembered. December 2018. The month I'd sent $800. I'd been working 3 jobs that month, teaching during the day, tutoring after school, waitressing on weekends at a diner in South Philly. I'd worked 70-hour weeks. I'd been so tired I'd fallen asleep on the bus twice and missed my stop. I'd sent the money on the 15th, transferred it from my account to theirs. My mother had texted me 3 hours later. Got it. Thank you. Family is grateful. That was it. No, I love you. No, we appreciate your sacrifice. Just family is grateful. The next week was Christmas. My parents had sent me a Target gift card for $25. Jonathan had posted photos on Facebook of the new watch our parents had bought him, a Rolex, $16,000. Grandma's voice cut through my memory. You told Crystal it was temporary. You promised you'd pay her back. You've had 12 years, George. My father's face was the color of ash. We were going to pay her back. When? Grandma's voice was sharp now. Actually sharp, actually angry. When were you going to pay back $78,000? When were you even going to acknowledge it? My mother was crying, not loudly, just silent tears running down her face, ruining her carefully applied makeup. But Grandma wasn't finished. Not even close. If you've ever given everything to your family, only to have them forget you even existed, type yes in the comments. You need to know you're not alone. She picked up the thick brown envelope from the box, the one I'd seen her get at the bank. She opened it and pulled out a stack of papers. 40, maybe 50 pages, stapled in sections. These, she said, holding them up, are my medical records from the past 10 years. Every time I went to the doctor, every appointment, every test, the person who drove me had to sign in as the emergency contact and transportation provider. She flipped through the pages. March 15th, 2023. Cardiology follow-up at Jefferson Health. Transportation provided by Crystal Cole. She turned another page. October 8th, 2024. Physical therapy for my knee. Transportation provided by Crystal Cole. Another page. November 20th, 2025. Annual checkup. Transportation provided by Crystal Cole. She looked at Jonathan. Her voice was softer now, sadder. 156 doctor's appointments in 10 years. Crystal drove me to 143 of them. Jonathan's face crumpled. He looked like he'd been punched. You drove me 8 times, Jonathan. 8 times in 10 years. She looked at my father. George, you drove me 5. My father couldn't look at her. He stared at the table like he wanted to disappear through it. But at every single family dinner, Grandma said, her voice icy again, you talked about how worried you were about me, how much you cared. We're so concerned about Mom. We check on her all the time. She paused. Every single word was a lie. People were shifting in their seats now, uncomfortable. Some were already half standing, getting ready to leave. They didn't want to be here, didn't want to witness this. But Grandma wasn't done. Grandma pulled out another piece of paper from the envelope. This one was different, official looking. June 18th, 2024, she read. 2:47 in the morning. I woke up in my bed. I couldn't move my left arm, couldn't make my hand work. I was scared, very scared. I remembered that night. God, I remembered. I called Crystal, Grandma said. My phone had rung at 2:47 a.m. I'd jerked awake, heart pounding. Nobody calls at 2:47 a.m. unless something is very wrong. Crystal drove from South Philadelphia to Fishtown in 18 minutes, Grandma continued. She found me sitting on my bed, terrified and disoriented. She drove me to Temple University Hospital. I'd had a stroke. A minor one, thank God. But a stroke. She looked around the table. Crystal stayed with me for 4 days. She slept in a hospital chair. She helped me eat when my left hand wouldn't work. She helped me walk to the bathroom when I was too dizzy to go alone. She washed my hair in the hospital sink because I couldn't lift my arm. She looked at my father. Her eyes were hard. I called you on day 3, George. Do you remember what you said? My father said nothing, stared at the table. You said you were busy with work. You said you'd try to come by on the weekend. You came once. You stayed for 45 minutes. You looked at your watch 3 times. My mother sobbed, loud enough for everyone to hear. Grandma reached into the envelope again, pulled out a small spiral notebook. This is my visitor log. I've kept it for 10 years. Every time someone visits me, I write down their name, the date, and how long they stayed. She opened it to a marked page. 2024. January 6th, Crystal Cole, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Grocery shopping, fixed the kitchen faucet. January 20th, George and Helen Cole, 2 p.m. to 2:40 p.m. Needed me to sign tax documents. She turned pages. February 3rd, Crystal Cole. Shoveled snow from my front steps and walkway. Brought me homemade soup because I had a cold. March 10th, Crystal Cole. Drove me to the eye doctor. Waited 2 hours while they dilated my pupils. Drove me home. Made sure I could see well enough to navigate my house safely. She closed the notebook. Every single Saturday for 10 years, Crystal drove 40 minutes from South Philadelphia to Fishtown to see me. She brought groceries. She fixed things around my house that broke. She shoveled snow in winter. She mowed the lawn in summer. She changed light bulbs I couldn't reach. She cleaned gutters. She brought me library books. She sat with me and drank tea and talked to me like I was a person, not a chore. She looked at Jonathan. You came 4 times last year, Jonathan. 4. Jonathan whispered. I was busy with work, with the kids. Crystal works too, Grandma said quietly. She has 14 students who depend on her every single day. She just chose to show up anyway. She reached into the envelope one more time, pulled out a small white envelope, opened it. Inside were receipts, dozens of them. CVS Pharmacy, 1901, Frankfurt Avenue, she read from one. August 12th, 2023. Prescription for lisinopril, blood pressure medication. Total $18.50. Paid by Crystal Cole. She pulled out another. February 5th, 2024. Prescription for atorvastatin, cholesterol medication. $22. Paid by Crystal Cole. Another. June 3rd, 2024. Prescription for metformin. 1975. Paid by Crystal Cole. She set the receipts down on the table in a small pile. 142 times over 10 years, Crystal bought my medication. Sometimes I forgot my wallet. Sometimes I was short on cash. Sometimes I just couldn't get to the pharmacy myself. She never asked me to pay her back. Not once. She looked at my father. You bought my medication 9 times in 10 years, George. 9. The room was dead silent, except for the sound of my mother crying. Grandma carefully stacked all the papers back into the envelope. Then she folded her hands on the table. So let me ask you a question, George, she said. Which one of your children carried resentment? And which one carried me? My father said nothing. He just stared at the table, his face gray, his hands trembling. Grandma reached into the canvas bag one more time. She pulled out the large brown envelope, the one I'd seen her get at the bank the Saturday before Thanksgiving, the one marked in her handwriting, for Thanksgiving 2025. The whole room seemed to hold its breath. I wrote this 2 months ago, Grandma said. After my doctor told me my heart is failing. Congestive heart failure, stage 3. I'm 81 years old. I don't have many Thanksgivings left. Maybe one more. Maybe 2 if I'm lucky. She looked around the table, at each face, taking them in. So I decided that this Thanksgiving would be the one where I finally told the truth. She opened the envelope, pulled out a document. Multiple pages, typed, official-looking, stapled. This is my will, she said. The real one, not the one George thinks I have in my safe deposit box, not the one I wrote 20 years ago. This one. My father's head snapped up. My mother stopped crying. Everyone was staring at Grandma now. She started reading. I, Dorothy Ann Brennan, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all previous wills and codicils. She turned a page. I own 4 properties in the city of Philadelphia. Total assessed value, approximately $2.1 million. People gasped. Actual gasps. They'd had no idea. Grandma had always lived so modestly, so simply. She continued reading. To my granddaughter, Crystal Marie Cole, I leave my home at 1220 Frankfurt Avenue, Fishtown, Philadelphia, currently valued at $580,000. I also leave the property at 2218 Spruce Street, Center City, Philadelphia, currently valued at $680,000 and currently rented for $2,400 per month. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't process what I was hearing. To the Brennan Scholarship Fund for Special Education Teachers, which I am establishing through this will, I leave the property at 1634 Pine Street, Center City, Philadelphia, valued at $720,000. The property shall be maintained as a rental property, with all rental income to be used to provide annual scholarships of $10,000 to special education teachers pursuing advanced degrees. Crystal Marie Cole shall serve as the administrator of this fund. She looked at Jonathan. Her expression was gentler now. To my grandson, Jonathan Michael Cole, I leave the property at 519 South 3rd Street, currently valued at $420,000. You are a good man, Jonathan, but you were given much. It's time you learned what it means to build something yourself. Jonathan nodded slowly, tears running down his face. Yes, ma'am. To my great-grandchildren, Sophie Cole, Nathan Cole, and Emma Cole, I leave all remaining cash assets, currently held in accounts at Citizens Bank, totaling approximately $150,000, to be divided equally among the 3 of them, and held in trust until each child reaches the age of 25. Grandma set the will down on the table. This was notarized on October 15, 2025, by my attorney, Margaret Finch of Finch and Associates. It has been filed with the Register of Wills. It is legal and binding. My father stood up, his face red, angry now. Mom, you can't. I can, George, and I did. My mother was crying again. This isn't fair. Fair? Grandma's voice could have cut glass. You want to talk about fair, Helen? She picked up the will and turned to the last page. This is a letter I wrote to both of you, but I'm going to read it out loud right now in front of everyone here because I want them all to know the truth. She cleared her throat and began reading. George and Helen, you took $78,400 from your daughter over the course of 8 years. You told her it was helping the family. You never told her it was paying for Jonathan's medical school. You never told Jonathan that his sister sacrificed her education, her dreams, and 8 years of her financial stability to pay for his success. You made her drop out of college. You made her work 3 jobs. You made her believe she wasn't good enough, that her life didn't matter, that her dreams were less important than Jonathan's. And then tonight, in front of 30 people, George, you stood up and told her you were ashamed she carried your last name. Her voice broke slightly, just slightly. The truth is, George, she's the only one who deserves it. Complete and utter silence. You could have heard a heartbeat. Grandma folded the letter carefully. I've been quiet for 12 years. I watched you erase Crystal. I watched you build Jonathan up on her back. I watched you lie to your family, to your friends, to yourselves. And I kept every single receipt, every single record, every single piece of evidence. She turned to me. Crystal, stand up. My legs were shaking so badly I didn't think they'd hold me. But I stood. Grandma reached out and took my hand. Her hand was small and cold and the strongest thing I'd ever felt. You didn't carry resentment, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You carried this family. You paid for your brother's education. You took care of me when no one else would. You sacrificed everything you had, everything you were, everything you could have been, And they never even said thank you. I was crying now, really crying. 12 years of tears. You are the best of us, Crystal, Grandma said. Her voice was thick with emotion. You always have been. You always will be. She turned to my father. And George, if you're ashamed that she uses your last name, then she won't have to anymore. My father blinked. What? The house at 1220 Frankfurt Avenue is now hers. She can change her name to Brennan if she wants to. She can build her own legacy. Without you. Without your approval. Without your shame. My father tried to stand up again. Tried to salvage something. This is ridiculous. Mom, you're being manipulated. You don't understand. The only person who was manipulated here, George, Grandma said, her voice like ice, was Crystal. For 12 years. And it ends tonight. And then, one by one, people started to leave. Uncle Robert stood up first. He pushed his chair back, walked around the table to me. He took my hand in both of his. Crystal, he said. His voice was rough. I'm so sorry. We should have seen this. We should have known. We should have asked questions. Aunt Diane was next. She hugged me tight, crying. You deserved so much better than this. So much better. My cousin Sarah came up to me. She was crying too. I can't believe I didn't notice. I'm so sorry, Crystal. I'm so sorry. Within 10 minutes, 20 people had left. Some stopped to hug me. Some told me they were sorry. Some whispered that they'd always thought something was wrong, but hadn't wanted to say anything. Some just left quietly, not making eye contact with my parents, like they were ashamed to be associated with them. They filed out into the cold November night. I could hear car doors slamming, engines starting, tires on the snowy street. Only 10 people remained. Grandma, me, Jonathan, Melissa, and their 3 kids. My parents. And 2 elderly aunts who didn't drive at night and had no choice but to stay until someone could take them home. The dining room table was still full of food, completely untouched. The turkey sat in the middle, going cold. The mashed potatoes had formed a skin on top. The wine glasses sat where they'd been abandoned, some still half full. The chandelier still glowed overhead, making everything look surreal, like a stage set after the show has ended. My parents sat in their chairs, silent. My father's face was gray. His hands were trembling. My mother was staring at her hands, which were folded in her lap. Her makeup was ruined from crying, black streaks down her cheeks. Jonathan stood up. He walked over to me slowly. His eyes were red and swollen. Crystal, he said. His voice broke on my name. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. I know, I said quietly. Why didn't you tell me? Because they asked me not to. Jonathan turned to look at our father. Our father couldn't meet his eyes. You lied to me, Jonathan said. For 12 years. You let me think I'd earned everything on my own. You let me think my success was mine, but it wasn't. It was built on Crystal's sacrifice. My father didn't answer, didn't defend himself, just sat there, gray and small and broken. Jonathan looked back at me. I'll pay you back. Every penny. I don't care how long it takes. Jonathan, you didn't know. It's not your fault. But I benefited from it, he said. That makes it my responsibility. Grandma spoke up. Her voice was softer now than it had been. You're a good man, Jonathan. You have a good heart. But being good isn't enough. You have to pay attention. You have to ask questions. You have to look beyond your own life and see the people around you. Jonathan nodded, wiped his eyes. Yes, ma'am. My father finally spoke. His voice was hoarse, raw. We did what we thought was best for the family. Grandma looked at him. No, George. You did what was best for Jonathan, and you made Crystal pay the price. It wasn't supposed to be forever, my father said weakly. We were going to make it right. We were going to pay her back. We just needed time to... You've had 12 years, Grandma said. When exactly were you planning to tell the truth? He had no answer. Grandma looked at my mother. Helen? My mother looked up. Her face was blotchy and swollen from crying. Her carefully styled hair was coming loose from its pins. We thought if Jonathan succeeded, the whole family would benefit. We thought Crystal would understand eventually. We thought she knew it was for the good of everyone. Did you ever ask her? Grandma said. Did you ever sit her down and explain? Did you ever thank her? Or did you just take and hope she'd never notice? Hope she'd never ask for it back? My mother didn't answer. She just put her face in her hands and cried. I spoke then. For the first time since my father's toast, I spoke. I need to say something. Everyone looked at me. The room went quiet again. I took a deep breath. My voice was steady, calm. I'd been practicing this in my head for 12 years without even knowing it. I don't hate you, I said, looking at my parents. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just tired. Silence. For 12 years, you made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like my job wasn't real. Like my life didn't matter. Like my dreams were worth less than Jonathan's. You made me feel like I was a burden, an embarrassment, a failure. I looked at my father. And the whole time, I was the one holding this family together. I was the one making sure Jonathan could become a doctor. I was the one making sure Grandma was taken care of. I was the one sacrificing everything. I turned to my mother. You nodded when he said he was ashamed of me. You didn't hesitate. You didn't defend me. You chose his side without even thinking about it, without even questioning whether what he was saying was true or fair or right. My mother started crying again. You said you were ashamed I use your last name, I said to my father. Good, because I don't want it anymore. I looked at Grandma. She was watching me with those sharp, clear eyes, proud eyes. I'll change my name to Brennan, I said, and I'll build a life you can't take credit for. I'll build a legacy that's mine, that I earned, that nobody can take away from me. My father opened his mouth to speak, but Grandma held up her hand. The will is effective immediately, she said. My lawyer, Margaret Finch, will contact you next week to begin the property transfers and the establishment of the scholarship fund. She looked at my parents, and her voice became hard again. You will not contact Crystal unless she reaches out first. Do you understand me? You will not call her. You will not text her. You will not email her. You will not show up at her apartment or her school. You will not contact her through other family members. Mom, you can't tell us, my father started. If you violate this, Grandma continued, speaking over him, I will make every single document I have public, every receipt, every bank statement, every piece of evidence. Your friends will know, your church will know, your colleagues at the bank will know. Everyone in your social circle will know exactly what you did. Do you understand? My father's face went pale. First Liberty Bank was a community institution. His reputation there was everything. If this got out, if people knew what he'd done to his own daughter, he'd be ruined. Do you understand? Grandma repeated. My father nodded slowly, defeated. Grandma picked up her canvas bag. She looked at me. Crystal, let's go home. I nodded. We walked out together, Grandma's hand in mine, leaving 30 plates of cold food and 2 parents sitting in silence at a table that had been set for celebration. The cold air hit my face like a slap when we stepped outside. It was snowing harder now. The street was white. My car was covered in a thin layer of snow. I helped Grandma down the front steps carefully. They were slippery. I drove her back to Fishtown. Neither of us talked much. The windshield wipers made a soft rhythm. The heater hummed. The radio was off. When we got to her house, I helped her up the steps. We went into her kitchen. She put the kettle on for tea. We sat at her small kitchen table, the one with the vinyl tablecloth and the wobbly leg, the one we'd sat at every Saturday for 10 years. Grandma, I said after a long silence, why didn't you tell me you were keeping track of everything? She poured tea into two mismatched mugs. One had flowers. One said, "World's Best Grandma." "Because I needed them to hang themselves first," she said. "If I'd confronted them privately, they would have denied it. They would have spun the story. They would have made it seem like I was confused or manipulated or senile. But tonight, in front of 30 people, after George publicly humiliated you the way he did, there was nowhere for them to hide. They couldn't deny it. They couldn't spin it. All those witnesses heard everything." "You planned this," I said. "You've been planning this for a long time." "I've been planning this since September 18th, 2013, she said. "The day you came to my house and asked me for that $8,000. I saw how scared you were, how ashamed. I knew something was wrong, so I started keeping records, writing everything down, saving every scrap of evidence." She sipped her tea. "I'm 81 years old, Crystal. My heart is failing. I don't have much time left. I wanted to make sure that before I go, you know the truth. You're not a disappointment. You're not a failure. You're not an embarrassment. You're the best thing this family ever produced. And I needed everyone to know that. Not just you. Everyone." I cried then. Really cried. All the tears I'd been holding back for 12 years came pouring out. Great, gasping sobs that shook my whole body. Grandma got up and came around the table. She put her arms around me and held me while I cried. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. "You have the house now. You have income from the rental property. You can go back to school if you want to. You can finish your degree. You can get your master's. You can do anything you want. You're free now." "What about you?" I asked through my tears. "Are you going to be okay?" She smiled, pulled back and looked at me. "I'm an old woman who just put her son in his place in front of God and everybody. I feel better than I have in years." That night, I slept in Grandma's guest room. The bed was soft and the room smelled like lavender sachets. I slept better than I had in months. The next morning was Black Friday. My phone started buzzing at 9:15 a.m. A text from my mother. "Crystal, we need to talk. Please call me." I looked at it, didn't respond. 2 hours later, my father. "This is getting out of hand. We're still your parents. Call us." I didn't respond to that either. That afternoon, my mother called, 4 times. I let it go to voicemail each time. I wasn't blocking them. I wasn't hiding from them. I just wasn't ready to talk. Maybe I never would be. And that was okay. Grandma watched me from across the kitchen table. "Are you going to respond?" I shook my head. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't owe them my time anymore. I don't owe them my energy. I don't owe them anything." That evening, I sat down and wrote an email. I wrote it carefully, precisely. I wanted to make sure there was no ambiguity. Subject: boundaries. "Mom and Dad, I am not ready to talk. I don't know when I will be. If and when that changes, I will reach out first. Until then, do not come to my home, my workplace, or Grandma's house. Do not contact me through other family members. Do not call, text, or email me repeatedly. If you respect these boundaries, we may be able to rebuild something someday. If you don't, this will be the last time you hear from me. Crystal." I sent it at 8:52 p.m. I CC'd Grandma and Jonathan so they would know what I'd said, so they could hold my parents accountable. My father read it at 9:03 p.m. I saw the read receipt pop up. He didn't reply. Neither did my mother, and I felt, for the first time in 12 years, like I could breathe. The next week, I helped Grandma move into my apartment. She didn't need full-time care. She was still independent, still sharp, still capable. But she wanted to be close to me, and after everything that had happened, I wanted her close too. My roommate Sarah had just moved in with her boyfriend the week before Thanksgiving, so the timing was perfect. We turned her old room into Grandma's room. It was small but sunny, with a window that looked out over the street. I bought her a comfortable chair. She brought her teapot, her favorite books, a box of old photographs. Every morning we had tea together in the kitchen. I told her about my students. She told me stories about her life, about Grandpa, who I'd never gotten to meet, about raising 3 kids as a young widow, about building her rental property business from nothing. One morning, about a week and a half after Thanksgiving, she said, "Have you thought about going back to school?" I looked up from my toast. "What do you mean? You dropped out 12 years ago. You only had 2.5 years left to finish your bachelor's degree. You could go back, finish it, maybe even get your master's degree in special education." "Grandma, I can't afford—" She held up her hand, cut me off gently. "The rental income from the Spruce Street property is $2,400 a month. That's $28,800 a year. After taxes and expenses, you'll clear about $22,000. That's enough to cover most of a master's program if you go to a state school. And I'm setting up the scholarship fund with the Pine Street property, but I want you to be the first recipient. $10,000 a year while you're in school." I stared at her, my eyes filled with tears. "You sacrificed your education for this family," she said. Her voice was firm, matter of fact. "It's time you got it back." So in January 2026, I applied to the University of Pennsylvania's Master of Education program, specializing in special education. I submitted my transcripts from Temple. I wrote an essay about my 12 years of teaching experience and why I wanted to advance my training. I asked my principal for a recommendation letter. In March, I got the acceptance email. I cried when I read it, sat at my kitchen table and cried while Grandma made tea and told me she'd never doubted it for a second. The program would cost $45,000 over 2 years. The Brennan Scholarship would cover $20,000. I took out a small loan for the rest. With my teaching salary and the rental income from Spruce Street, I could manage the loan payments. It would be tight, but I could do it. For the first time in 12 years, I was moving forward instead of just surviving. In mid-December, Jonathan called me. It was a Sunday afternoon. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Crystal," he said. "Can we meet for coffee, just the two of us? I need to talk to you." We met at a Bluestone Lane cafe on Locust Street at 10:30 on a Saturday morning. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table by the window. His hands were wrapped around a cup of coffee. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. When I sat down across from him, he looked at me for a long moment. Then he started to cry. "Crystal," he said, "I can't undo 12 years. I can't give you back what you lost, but I can start making it right." He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out an envelope, slid it across the table to me. I opened it. Inside was a check, made out to me, from his personal account at Wells Fargo Bank. $78,400. "Jonathan, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do." His voice cracked, broke. "You paid for my medical school. You sacrificed your education so I could have mine. I need to pay you back. All of it." I looked at the check. In the memo line he'd written, "With love and deepest apologies." "I didn't know," he said. "I swear to God I didn't know. But I should have. I should have asked questions. I should have noticed that you dropped out and started working right when I started medical school. I should have noticed that you were always broke. I should have noticed that you never asked Mom and Dad for help with anything. I should have paid attention. Jonathan, I never blamed you." "I know," he said, "but I blame myself. I benefited from your sacrifice whether I knew about it or not. That makes it my responsibility." We sat there for a long time, not talking, just sitting together. Two siblings trying to figure out how to be family again after everything that had been broken. Finally, he said quietly, "We're still family, right? We can still be brother and sister?" I looked at him, at his red eyes and his genuine remorse, at the check on the table between us. "Yeah," I said, "we are. We're still family. Just a different kind now, a more honest kind." He nodded, wiped his eyes. "I'd like that. Christmas 2025 was different from any Christmas I'd ever had. I didn't go to my parents' house. I didn't even consider it. Instead, I stayed in my apartment with Grandma. We cooked a small dinner for two. turkey breast instead of a whole turkey, mashed potatoes for two, a small pan of stuffing. We watched old movies and drank hot chocolate with peppermint schnapps. In the afternoon, Jonathan, Melissa, and the kids came over. They brought gifts wrapped in bright paper and cookies shaped like Christmas trees. Sophie, the 9-year-old, gave me a drawing she'd made at school. It was crayon on construction paper. She'd drawn me and Grandma standing in front of a red brick house. There was a big yellow sun in the corner. We were holding hands and smiling. "I made this for you, Aunt Crystal," she said, proud. "It's you and Great-Grandma at your new house." I hugged her tight. "It's perfect, sweetheart. Absolutely perfect. Thank you." Grandma looked at the drawing. Her eyes filled with tears. "That's us, Crystal. That's our new beginning." After Jonathan's family left, Grandma and I sat by the small electric fireplace in my living room. She gave me a gift, wrapped in silver paper with a white ribbon. Inside was a silver necklace, simple, delicate, with a small charm in the shape of the letter B. "For Brennan," she said. I put it on immediately, felt the cool metal against my skin. I gave her a gift too. Something I'd been working on for weeks, staying up late after she'd gone to bed. A handmade photo album, leather-bound. I'd spent hours putting it together, printing photos, arranging them on pages, writing captions in my neatest handwriting. 10 years of photos. Me and Grandma at the grocery store. Me and Grandma in her garden. Me and Grandma at doctor's appointments. Her in the wheelchair after her stroke. Me pushing her. Me and Grandma drinking tea in her kitchen. Me and Grandma at the park. Me and Grandma just living life together. She turned the pages slowly, touching each photo like it was precious, like it was sacred. "This," she said quietly, her voice thick with emotion, "is what family should feel like." That night, after Grandma went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table. The apartment was quiet. Outside, snow was falling again, soft and steady. I pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. I wrote a letter, not to send to anyone, just for myself. "Dear Crystal, for 12 years, you thought you weren't enough. You thought you failed because you didn't have the career, the marriage, the house, the perfect life they wanted for you. But you were never the failure. You were the foundation. You held your family together when they couldn't even see you. You loved your students when no one valued your work. You took care of Grandma when everyone else was too busy building their perfect lives to notice she needed help. You didn't carry resentment. You carried love, quietly, constantly, without asking for anything in return. And now, finally, you get to carry yourself. You are enough. You always were. Love, Crystal Brennan." I folded the letter carefully, put it in my desk drawer. Someday, maybe, I'd need to read it again when I doubted myself. When the old voices came back. When I wondered if I'd made the right choice. But tonight, I didn't need it. Tonight, I looked down at the silver bee hanging around my neck. Crystal Brennan. It felt right. It felt true. It's been 3 months since that Thanksgiving. Grandma is still with me. Her health isn't great. Some days are better than others. But she's stable. She's happy. We have tea every morning before I leave for work. We watch old movies at night. She tells me stories about her life, and I'm writing them down so they won't be lost. I started my master's program in January. It's hard. I won't lie about that. Balancing teaching full-time during the day and taking classes 2 evenings a week and on Saturday mornings is exhausting. But I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it. For the first time in 12 years, I'm building something that's mine. Last week, my professor pulled me aside after class. She said my paper on adaptive learning strategies for students with autism was the best she'd read in 5 years of teaching the course. She asked if she could submit it to an education journal. I said yes. Jonathan and I talk once a week now, usually on Sunday evenings. We're rebuilding our relationship slowly, carefully, like people learning to walk after an injury. His kids come over sometimes to visit Grandma. They call her Great Grandma Dot. They bring her drawings and sit on her lap while she reads them stories. Sophie told me last week that I'm her favorite aunt. It was the first time anyone in my family had made me feel like I belonged in 12 years. My parents? I haven't spoken to them since Thanksgiving. They've tried reaching out a few times. My mother sent a card in January. It said, "We miss you. Please call." I didn't respond. My father sent an email in February, a long one. He talked about how he'd been under a lot of pressure at work, how he'd made mistakes, how he hoped we could move past this as a family. He didn't apologize. He didn't acknowledge what he'd done. He just wanted to move past it. I didn't respond to that either. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have that conversation, to hear if they're capable of real apology, real change, real accountability. But right now, I'm focused on healing, on building a life that's mine, on becoming the person I was always meant to be before they convinced me I wasn't enough. And that's okay. I changed my name legally in February, Crystal Marie Brennan. I went to the courthouse, filled out the paperwork, paid the fee, got the official certificate. Grandma cried when I showed it to her. Happy tears. "You're free now," she said. And she was right. I am free. Free from the shame. Free from the need to prove myself to people who will never see me. Free from the weight of carrying a family that never carried me back. Free from the name that was used as a weapon against me. I have a home now. Not just a place to live, but a real home. A place where I'm valued, where I'm seen, where I belong. I have a future. Not the future my parents wanted for me, but the future I'm choosing for myself. I have people who love me for who I am, not for what I can give them. Every day, I teach my students that they are worthy of love and respect exactly as they are, that their disabilities don't define their worth, that they are enough. And I'm finally starting to believe that about myself too. Last week, one of my students, a boy named Marcus, who hasn't spoken in 3 years, looked up at me during reading time and said, "Miss Brennan, you're nice." 3 words, that's all. But I cried in my car on the way home because those 3 words meant someone saw me. Someone valued me. Someone thought I was worth speaking to after 3 years of silence. That's what I want you to understand. It's been 3 months since that Thanksgiving. I'm Crystal Brennan now, and I finally carried the one thing I should have carried all along, my own worth. If this story hit home, you're not alone. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's survival. Walking away isn't giving up, it's choosing yourself. You don't need permission to be worthy. Drop a comment if you've ever felt invisible in your own family. I read everyone. Your story matters. Hit subscribe if you want more stories about standing up and choosing yourself. Remember, you deserve a family that sees you. And if they can't see you, it's not because you're invisible. It's because they chose not to look.